All right, so this is a neat project I did a while back where I had a S10 that had a 5.3 swap in it. I had a mild cam. I took it to the track, ran it, naturally aspirated. Then I put a nitrous kit on it, ran it on the bottle. Then I found a good deal on a Vortex Supercharger, a little SC trim. So I built some brackets for that, mounted it on the truck, took it back to the track, ran it with the blower, and then finally I sprayed nitrous along with the blower. So I got videos and time slips for all of that. So we'll get into it. This first clip will be the truck at the drag strip, naturally aspirated. So I went 750s at 89 on the motor, so not too bad for just a mild cam 5.3, but the truck is pretty light. It's probably 3,000 pounds or less with me in it. So next thing we'll do is put the nitrous on. So here it is. I just mounted the bottle back in the bed, and then moving on to the solenoids, I just made a little bracket there to mount the solenoids next to the intake manifold. This ML2000 kit, it's a wet kit, so you got nitrous and fuel solenoids, and then it comes with like a little piranha nozzle, I think they call it. So that's it. Pretty standard, simple setup. I did have a RPM window switch I use as like an Intellitronics, so those are nice to have. So anyway, here coming up is a video of the truck on a 100 shot. So here's the in-car footage of that same pass against that supercharged Mustang. This is with I got the Dragy running, so we'll be able to do a comparison of the track time slip to the Dragy just to show you how accurate the Dragys are. All right, so went 7.0 on a 100 shot, so knocked off about a half second and 97 mile an hour, so picked up about 8 mile an hour or so. And then this is the comparison there, the time slip and the Dragy. As you can see, time slip says 701, Dragy said 702, mile per hour 97.4 versus 97.32. I mean, that's pretty close. You know, the Dragy was only off by 100th of a second. Compared to this you know, whatever timing system this drag strip used. So pretty good. And then, okay, so now we're going to move on to the blower stuff. So here's a picture of, this was me just roughly kind of mocking it up using some bar stock to try to hold the blower in place. I didn't have brackets for this, so I just made my own. But essentially kind of got it where I wanted, took some measurements, and then I drew it up in CAD, and then I printed it out 1-to-1, and then cut out a little template, and that's what that kind of white sheet of paper is there on the blower. And then just taped it down to a piece of 3/8 thick aluminum, and I started drilling the holes out on a drill press. And then there's a picture of it, just mounting it up. It's this particular front plate I have bolts to the water pump where the factory tensioner would bolt to. And then here is, I trimmed out just enough of it to fit the blower on the bracket to kind of get an idea of belt spacing. And by the way, this 3/8 plate, I cut this whole thing out using a jigsaw. which took forever, but I got it done. So then here is kind of mocking it up on a head off the truck. I built another bracket in the back there to support it with some standoffs. So that bracket bolts to the head, and the front bracket, as you saw, bolts to the water pump. And there it is, bolted on. The bracketry's all done. I have the piping done. It's got the blow-off valve mounted on there. And then I don't have a good picture to show the belt tensioner setup, but this is what I used. I think it's from ICT Billet. I believe the one I bought was for truck spacing, and I had to machine the standoffs down a little bit to get it to match the F-body spacing, which is what I was using, an F-body balancer. All right, so that's that, and then here, this next video is it running. So listen to that. Here I take it out for a first little rip to see how it feels. All right, and here's the first pass to drag strip with the blower. All right, so first pass with the blower went 670 at 102, so it's a good chunk quicker than the 100 shot. And this is on about 10 or 11 pounds of boost. If you look at the video prior where I do the little rip on the street there, that middle gauge you can see is the boost gauge. It gets up to around 11, I think, right before I shift. And then, so on this pass, I had it, the timing and air fuel were pretty conservative. So after this pass, I put a little bit more timing in down low, and then I also leaned it up, the air fuel a little bit because it was pig rich, and then made another pass, and here is that after a little bit of tuning. All right, so a little tuning goes a long way. That was 658 at 104. Still at the same boost number, so did pretty good. And then now we go on to spraying a 50 shot on top of the blower, and that will be this pass. All right, so 634 at 108, pretty decent. This thing, you know, kept working. It liked boost, it liked nitrous, it liked both of them. So, you know, 634, you know, if I ran it out the back door, that'd be roughly a 990, you know, which is doing pretty good for just a bunch of, you know, junk I tossed together. And then this, I just tossed this picture in here. This is an old ad for these S10s back in the day when they had the 4.3 liter V6. They're advertising that they'd run under 10 seconds for under $10,000. Now back then they meant under 10 seconds, 0 to 60 time, but I thought it'd be funny to use this whenever I went to sell the truck to state that it would run under 10 seconds on the quarter mile, because it, you know, 630 is 990 for under 10 grand. I think I only had like 5 or 6 grand in this truck, you know, just messing around. So I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny, a little ad they had back in the day. All right, so here's a little summary I pulled together of everything we did. I tossed it in Excel. Has all the best ET and best mile per hour for each of the configurations there. And then just for fun, I added in the horsepower estimate using a Wallace Racing calculator, just based on the 1/8 mile per hour. And I did that just to give a rough idea of kind of how much extra power you were obtaining from each of these, the 100 shot versus the blower versus the 50 shot with the blower. So I have that last column there, you know, horsepower gain from, over naturally aspirated. And so essentially there, so naturally aspirated, we went 755 to 89, and Wallace Racing calculating that to be about 338 horse. It probably isn't too far off. And then going on to the 100 shot, went 701 at 97, and then calculating that to be 431 horsepower. So if you look at the gain, it's saying there's a gain of 93 horse over NA, which makes sense for a 100 shot. Also, I didn't have a bottle heater, or I didn't have a good bottle heater when I was at the track, spraying it. So it probably, with a good bottle heater and getting the pressure up to 1,000 psi, it probably would have been closer to 100 horse, or even better. Probably would have gone 690s too. Then going on to the blower. So with the blower, it went a best of 658 at 104, and that calculates out to 529 horsepower. So that's 191 horsepower gain over naturally aspirated, which is pretty good. And then going on to the Supercharger plus a 50 shot. So that went 634 at 108, and that's calculating out to 594 horsepower, or 256 horsepower over the naturally aspirated setup. So pretty good numbers. One thing I added here at the very far right was the power gain that the 50 shot had over the blower, and it was 65 horse. So that's kind of a phenomena that happens with blower cars. Typically, for whatever reason, when you spray nitrous on top of a supercharged vehicle, often you'll gain more power than the rated horsepower rating of the jetting. Now my combination was probably worse than typical because I didn't have a intercooler at all. So the cooling effect of the nitrous probably had more of effect on my setup than maybe a typical intercooled blower setup. But either way, just another little piece of data there to show you. So yeah, so that's it. That's the NA versus nitrous versus blower versus both comparison. This was it was a cool project. I had a lot of fun doing it. The truck, while it's not super fast, by today's standards, I guess, what people are into and things, but it was this thing. The only suspension it had was a set of yellow Jeg slapper bars. I mean, that was it. This thing was pulling 140 60 foots, and felt like it was getting loose going down the track. But it was a good time. I had a lot of fun. So, all right. Well, hope you guys enjoyed that, and stick around for more Dyno and Dragy stuff.